There's a hidden communication code of the type known and used in ancient Egypt, where specific geometric forms are like antennas that connect with and resonate with different planes of nature. And even if you know nothing about biogeometry, if you simply design forms according to these specific numbers and combinations, they will automatically give you beneficial BG3 energy qualities. But to understand how this works requires us to change our frame of reference to where the living vibrational world around us is in constant dynamic interaction with us, based on how we form the world around us. Biogeometry is the science of energy balancing. We often refer to it as nature's own design language of shape, sound, color, motion, angle, proportion. All the way that nature creates vibrational and energetic effects are things that are studied and applied in biogeometry. It's also based on the principles of resonance, and resonance is when things of a similar vibrational quality can exchange energy and information, and the principle of harmonics, where this vibrational exchange takes place at all levels, at all planes of existence, all dimensions. Now, one of the remarkable things inside biogeometry is that it has practical methods for us to directly detect specific vibrational qualities, differentiate them one from another, and to apply them or transform them for practical purposes. Dr. Karim has also succeeded in identifying a specific vibrational quality not discovered by the French. That is the vibrational quality that balances all living energy systems. This is an energy that Dr. Karim has coined the BioGeometry 3 or the BG3 because it has three specific components, but they come as one totality. So sometimes Dr. Karim will refer to this as the one energy quality, but it's like the mystery of the Trinity where the three is one and the one is three. But Dr. Karim's original research was able to isolate the three specific vibrations that do balance all living energy systems, the BG3. There's also a hidden part of the system that Dr. Karim discovered where particular geometric forms will resonate with different planes of nature. Now we know that the human being contains more than a physical aspect. Along with our physical aspect, as understood by every classical tradition on the planet, we have a body of life energy that the Greeks called ether, and the Chinese called chi, and the Japanese call ki, and that the Indians call prana. In addition to this body of life energy, we have what's often referred to as the astral or emotional body. We have a body of mental activity, and we have higher spiritual bodies as well. There's a hidden communication code of the type known and used in ancient Egypt, where specific geometric forms are like antennas that connect with and resonate with different planes of nature. So that the form that you see on this particular slide is a type of pendulum developed by Dr. Karim that brings together a variety of these shapes that connect to the different planes. The shape that connects to what's often referred to as the astral plane, that is actually the source of the human emotional body, is the form of a hemisphere or a pyramid. So that these geometric forms have multiple aspects to them. And so one of those is that it connects to a very specific aspect of the subtle worlds. In ancient Egypt, they understood that they were constantly interacting with conscious forces of nature, and they termed these conscious forces of nature the netters. The Egyptians understood they were interacting with conscious forces of nature, and they understood how to have a communication code with these conscious forces of nature. Virtually every classical tradition in the ancient world had some type of shamanic science in which they knew how to talk with forces of nature. And particularly in ancient Egypt, they had mastered these communication codes. One way that these codes manifest is in pure geometric form, that the forms themselves hold a particular type of vibrational or energetic content that connects with higher realms through resonance and harmonics. In this particular illustration that we have received from Dr. Karim, it shows a netter interacting with the pharaoh. And the interaction between this force of nature and the pharaoh is through particular forms held in the hand. These forms have a geometric form to them, but their geometric form actually emits specific vibrational qualities. And this is one of the secrets of the ancient Egyptian temple science, that some of the forms that we see from ancient Egypt, like the form of the Ankh, is not simply a metaphor, is not simply a symbol for life, but the form itself actually emits a carrier wave, emits a vibration that has an effect on living beings. So what we see represented here is that in ancient Egypt, they knew how to communicate with the forces of nature through these communication codes, including that of geometry. And these geometric forms have a vibrational content as well as a symbolic meaning. Khalil Masih did a tremendous amount of research in looking for particular types of forms from ancient Egypt that were spread throughout museums in Middle East and Europe. And the form you see here is a form known as the Waj. In Europe, it's known as the Egyptian pendulum. This particular form is one that is represented in many European and Middle Eastern museum collections, and they usually simply label it as some type of ritual object. But ritual object is just a description they give for something that they don't know what it is or how it was used. What it actually is a pendulum that has a specific type of vibrational emission from it. The vibrational emission from this pendulum comes from the hemispherical cap at the top, and the vibration that it emits is modified by what looks like zigzag lines, similar to a specific letter in the hieroglyphic language, that changes the vibration so that the emission from the tip has a penetrating carrier wave of energy. In ancient Egypt, they used a science using these forms and their vibrational qualities to communicate with natural forces and to develop a science of being able to differentiate different vibrational qualities and to know their effect on living beings, both as far as energetic and health effects, as well as effects on consciousness. In 1933, something very important happened. At that time, a particular researcher named André de Belazal, along with his co-worker Leon Chameray, were able to isolate a specific range of vibrational qualities that became a type of vibrational spectrum. They built on the work of earlier pioneers like Louis Turin, a radio engineer in France. But this individual that you see in these pictures, de Belazal, was able to finish the spectrum. So just as we have today an electromagnetic spectrum that allows us to create electromagnetic technologies, so at that time, in 1933, they completed this understanding of the range of vibrational energies that are too subtle to be picked up by electromagnetic detection equipment. However, these subtle energies were known to the ancient spiritual traditions who practically applied these energies. And these particular energies do affect living beings, all biological life, in a profound manner. Although again, simple electromagnetic detection equipment will not detect their presence. They split the spectrum up into 12 different parts, and they completed the spectrum when they identified a penetrating carrier wave of energy that they referred to under the somewhat confusing name of negative green. Without going into detail as to why they called it negative green, we'll simply say it's a very strong penetrating carrier wave that can be emitted by specific geometric forms. And this particular carrier wave of energy was found by the French researchers to be capable of penetrating thicknesses of lead that could not be penetrated by X-rays. So with the research that they did, you can see de Belazal in front of an array of hemispheres pointing in a particular direction. They could actually manifest and amplify, sometimes to a dangerous extent, this particular vibration through these types of methods. You'll also see an illustration of a hemisphere and pyramid form. They found that these forms actually emit this penetrating carrier wave from their base. And so both the dome and the pyramid have specific applications for energy purposes because they are what Dr. Karim refers to as polarized geometric energy emitters. In other words, they send a wave of energy in a specific direction, and that wave of energy can be engineered for specific purposes. But the main thing to take away from this slide is that in 1933, they were able to complete this spectrum of all the vibrational energies that affect living beings that are not known to modern science, but that were known to the great classical traditions of the world. In fact, as you see in this particular chart by Kerner Skariatin, the Russian who lived in Egypt and used the French methods of vibrational research that they called radiesthesia, they were able to isolate with the 12 bands of energy that they detected in the spectrum exactly what types of vibrations came from what types of forms and were also present in what types of illness and disease microorganisms. This also meant that they could isolate the specific type of subtle vibration that could neutralize the energy coming from these disease microorganisms. And this is very precise type of knowledge. They may refer to these things in the different vibrational qualities under the names of colors, but it's not simply a color. Color is one way that these vibrations manifest in what Dr. Karim refers to as scales of quality. So the complete vibrational spectrum, creating all the possible effects on living beings, will appear in the scale of quality of color, but also in the scale of sound, also in the scale of motion and angle and shape and proportion. They are all qualitative scales that create very specific energetic effects. These three vibrational qualities that Dr. Karim identified can be talked about either through modern terms that have an identifiable basis to them in a type of vibrational science concept, or they can be described according to concepts known to classical spiritual traditions, which also had an understanding of these energies. So one of these energies that makes up the three vibrational qualities that balance all living energy systems is this quality that the French found, this carrier wave of energy that they called negative green. Another is one that we refer to in a technical basis as the higher harmonic of ultraviolet. It is in resonance with ultraviolet light and energy on the physical plane, but it's on a higher harmonic level. Classical spiritual traditions might refer to this energy as the spiritual light, or they might refer to it as the atmosphere of the angels. The third component, and considered to be in some ways the highest of the three components of this balancing force, is the higher harmonic of gold. The higher harmonic of gold is connected to physical gold and is the reason why so many classical traditions used physical gold in their spiritual mysteries. Whether it's in South America or Egypt or Asia, you constantly see the use of gold, but it's not for the physical aspect of it, but because it resonates with something on a higher level. This higher harmonic of gold energy was identified by Dr. Karim as having a strong effect on vitalizing the human immune system and activating many important functions in the human energy field and consciousness. But it's also something known to classical traditions. It is the same gold energy that you see around the heads and the bodies of the saints in religious depictions all over the world. And this higher harmonic of gold energy was also an energy connected in the Egyptian mysteries to the plane of divine wisdom, a spiritual plane very close to the Godhead at a very high divine level. So we can understand these things either in a spiritual context or in more of a vibrational science context, but they're really the same unity. Now, this balancing force that Dr. Karim identified manifests in particular ways. And to really understand how we can engineer structures, build a building, create a form so that it has specific vibrational qualities requires us to change our perspective on how energies connect to form. Dr. Karim refers to our work as being a sculptor of space. When we form space in a particular way, we then form it also to create specific vibrational harmonics that will affect every person that ever enters into that location. And so this balancing force will naturally appear of its own accord around certain geometric forms. In the form of a rotational movement or a circle, it appears in the very center of the circle. In the biogeometry foundation training, after we teach people how to test these different vibrational qualities, we will give them the form of a drawn circle and say, I want you to use these tools and show me where you find the BG3 energy. And they find it coming from the very center of the circle. This BG3 energy is in the center of all structures, and there are particular methods we can use to amplify and distribute its energy. So this gives us the classical initiation diagram that you see on this slide of a point in the center of a circle. If you study with the Rosicrucians and Freemasons, they'll tell you the point in the center of the circle is the symbol of the Godhead. If you study astrology, they'll say that it is the symbol of the sun. If you study alchemy, they'll say it's the symbol of gold. It is all these things and more. This is a circuit diagram showing you how to connect to all of these things. And the higher harmonic of gold and the whole BG3 is found emitted from the center of these circular or rotational forms. If you have straight line forms, like the cross that you see on the slide, then this balancing force will naturally appear at the perfect balance point moving into those forms. Because this balancing energy appears at the balance point, and it actually works with all living energy systems to balance those living energy systems. But to understand how this works, once again, requires us to change our frame of reference to where the living vibrational world around us is in constant dynamic interaction with us, based on how we form the world around us, and also related to what we do with our own energetic field, with our thoughts, emotions, etc. Dr. Karim has done a tremendous amount of work looking at the way that specific types of vibrational waves and wavelengths will create vibrational effects and affect living beings. One aspect of this is in the way that we can actually change the vibrational qualities within electromagnetic waves. And you can actually change the biological effect of electromagnetic waves to be biologically helpful to human beings and not harmful based on how you shape the wave. The wave will have a specific shape to it based on the amplitude or height of the wave and the wavelength, as seen on the right-hand side of this diagram. In a simpler manifestation, this is also connected to the types of vibrational qualities that you get inside any structure, based on things like the height of the room and the length of the room and the width of the room. These will create specific wavelengths that are capped standing waves within that location that, depending on their particular size and structure, will create vibrational harmonics that are supportive or harmful to living beings within that structure. If you go to Giza Plateau, you will find that the three major pyramids at Giza are not flat-faced pyramids. The three major pyramids have a half-a-degree indentation straight down the center of all four faces of the pyramids. This is known to Egyptologists, but they don't understand the purpose for it. The purpose for it is that it changes dramatically the vibrational quality of the energy inside the pyramid. In ancient Egypt, they understood about finding the sacred power spot to build the pyramid on in the first place, and then how to modify the shape of the pyramid to change its energetics for the desired purpose. So the modifications to the shape of the pyramid are quite intentional and create a profound vibrational shift within the location. Dr. Karim has completed a system of vibrational energetics where you can use specific number qualities together in something he calls the modular system. And even if you know nothing about biogeometry, if you simply design forms according to these specific numbers and combinations, they will automatically give you beneficial BG3 energy qualities. So Dr. Karim's research in understanding the way that geometric forms emit specific types of vibrational qualities that affect living beings. The French called this quality of emission of waves, they called it shape-caused waves, because the shape literally emits the wave. And this work was then validated at the Egyptian National Research Center when they had Dr. Karim come and they gave him the challenge of having 2 Petri dishes with microorganisms in them. That was a fast-replicating yeast, and they asked Dr. Karim to kill all the microorganisms in one Petri dish with a simple geometric form and nothing else, and leave the other untouched. And to give you some sense of the type of person Dr. Karim is, he said, biogeometry is not for killing, and I'm not going to kill anything. What I will do is I will put a simple geometric form and nothing else over one of the cell cultures and completely paralyze all of its life activity. It'll be in a state of suspended animation until I remove the geometric form. The other one that I leave alone will continue to replicate naturally. And what you see on this slide is the report from the Egyptian National Research Center from this evaluation, where the head of the Department of Microbial Chemistry, Dr. Badr al-Din, wrote the report and said Dr. Karim accomplished exactly what he said he could do, that some type of subtle radiation from the geometric form completely suspended the life activity in the dish that he covered while the other replicated normally, and we cannot explain this effect through our current knowledge in contemporary science and medicine, and it's a top priority for us to begin to research this. Another one of Dr. Karim's discoveries is that through using radiesthesia to be able to tune to specific vibrations and track them as they move through the living bodies of human beings, animals, etc., he could actually track the way that specific energies move inside the human body. And he called these movements of dynamic energy in the body biosignatures. What you see on these slides are the energy movement patterns that Dr. Karim identified in specific organ systems of the body. And these energy movement patterns can actually be provided to people as biosignatures to help to harmonize different energetic things in their energetic field and with their organ function. So this connects to Dr. Karim's concept of energy, shape, and function. With these biosignature patterns, to understand how they work, don't look at them as static forms. Look at them as a pattern that energy is moving constantly and dynamically within. Energy moves into a shape, and energy is actually programmed to perform a specific function by the shape it moves into. Energy moves into a shape, and the shape determines the function. That gives us a very simple equation in biogeometry for practical work. Energy plus shape equals function. Dr. Karim has also done numerous projects, not just with human beings, but with animals, with plants, etc. And just to touch on a couple of these, in one project he worked with a chick farm, had them stop giving the chicks antibiotics and different types of artificial hormones, and instead simply created strong concentrations of BG3 around them. They found that the chickens grew faster, healthier, without any of the normal methods, and actually their flesh, when they were later consumed for food, were actually full of this BG3 energy. He's also done research into the growing of crops, and in one of the many projects he's done on the Red Sea, he was given the challenge, can you help us to grow sweet potatoes in salt water? Normally, sweet potatoes and other crops will not grow in salt water, but taking the salt out of the Red Sea is an extremely expensive process of desalinization. So, to make a long story short, Dr. Karim took the salt water straight from the Red Sea and ran it through particular shapes of containers and channels that infused the water with this BG3 balancing energy, and then applied it to the growing of the sweet potatoes. So what you see on these slides is, on the left-hand side, the normal growth of a control normal sweet potato grown with fresh water. Then the one to the right of it is a sweet potato that didn't really grow at all through normal salt water, because you can't normally grow crops with salt water. But at the bottom, you see a sweet potato grown with salt water that did not have any of the salt taken out of it, but it simply had been held within BG3 containers and run through BG3 channels to change its vibrational quality. And so Dr. Karim doesn't make any claims for this, but it shows that the vibrational quality of the water appears to be able to overcome even the actual chemical constituents of the water, which is a remarkable finding.